What does it mean to live the choices you made, and not just to make them? A life with direction. What is a life that has been, over time, more chosen than inherited? We have reached the end of this season, and a particular point in this entire series. It is not the end. The series continues. Invisible Heritage Season 4, Visible Choice Season 4. But there is something that has happened along the way from the first episode of Invisible Heritage to here that deserves to be named before we continue. A life without active inheritance, without relapses, without cost. It is a life where, over time, the choices are more yours than inherited, and where that difference is visible, even if only in retrospect. This episode is about recognizing what has been built, not to stop, but to be aware of the ground covered. Because without that awareness, you continue to build without knowing what already exists. Where were you when you started following these series or this work? What has changed? Not what should have changed. What has really changed? A concrete thing. A life with direction is not a life with a plan. The plan assumes knowledge of the destination, and the direction we are talking about is not a destination. It is orientation. Direction. The ability to, in most of the decisions that matter, choose according to what is central to you, instead of according to what has been installed, what is expected, what is easier. This definition is deliberately modest. It does not say that all decisions are like this. It says that most of those that matter are. It does not say that there is no active inheritance. It says that inheritance does not govern. It informs, but does not govern. And there is a way to recognize when you are building that, not by declaration, but by accumulated evidence. The choices you made in the last year, were they more yours than those of the previous year? The relationships you have now, are they more honest than the ones you had 5 years ago? The way you respond under pressure, is it different from how you responded a decade ago? You don't need to have arrived. You need to be genuinely on your way, and to be able to look back and see the direction the line has taken. 28 episodes, 6 seasons, 2 series universes. What has been built, and what remains to be built? What has been built? Vocabulary to name what was invisible. Tools to examine inheritance without judgment and without collapse. The ability to distinguish choice from reflection. Practices to maintain direction when the system resists. Honesty about the real cost of change. What has not been built? Complete resolution. There is no complete resolution. What exists is increasing clarity, increasing capacity, increasing relationship with the imperfection of the process. Nothing has been definitively resolved. Everything has been seen in more detail, worked on with more awareness, navigated with more intention. And that is enough, not as consolation, but as honesty about what a lifetime's work produces. Not perfection, not arrival, but a different relationship with who you are and what you choose. A life with direction is not a state that is reached. It is a practice that continues, with more fluency as practice accumulates, with less drama as the emotional cost of seeing what exists decreases, with more compassion as one understands that imperfection is not an obstacle to the process. It is a condition. Continuing means continuing to examine what is active, not obsessively, but with enough regularity so that new patterns do not consolidate without examination. Continuing means continuing to make choices that are more yours. Not all, not perfectly, but with enough frequency in the areas that matter most so that the direction of the line is visible. Continuing means continuing to have compassion for the process, for yours and for others. Because everyone is navigating inheritance. Everyone is trying to do the best they can with the map they have, including the people who shaped you, including you. Specifically, after finishing this series, a practice, a question, an area of attention. It doesn't have to be big. It has to be real. Invisible Heritage continues in Season 4, Spiritual and Existential Inheritances. What has been transmitted about the meaning of life, about what happens after it, about faith and doubt and the sacred. Visible Choice continues in Season 4, for territory that these 3 seasons have prepared but not directly touched. How to live with legacy. What do you want to remain? How to act with awareness of what lasts beyond you. But before that, the comments of this episode. What remains from the entire series, not just this season? A phrase, an idea, a thing that changed. I read everything, and what you leave here will inform what the next seasons explore. This series has always been a conversation, not a monologue. What remains from your part, in the comments, in the messages, in the shares, is part of this series just as much as what has been said here. Thank you for that. A life with direction. Not perfect, not finished, not without cost or without relapse or without active inheritance, but with direction, with choices that are, over time, more yours, with a line that, looking back, shows where it has been, and that continues from this point to where you choose. Heritage is the context. Choice is the story, and the story is still being written. That is Visible Choice. A life with direction. What has been built, and what continues to be built. The choice that this episode examines is not simple to name, because it was made before you were aware that you were making a choice. It became a habit. It became an identity. It became the way things are. And the first step to choosing differently is to be able to see what was being chosen and why. Visible Choice was built to make visible what is always present but rarely examined. That most of what we call choices are better presented reflections. What was taught, what was inherited, what was modeled by specific environments. All of this operates in decisions that seem more personal and more free. There is a difference between deciding and choosing. Deciding is what we do when we process information and come to a conclusion. Choosing is what we do when we have real awareness of the alternatives, including the alternative of not doing what we have always done. This series works exactly that difference. What has been learned about how to make choices can be examined. What can be examined can be questioned. And what can be questioned can, with time and honest work, be replaced by something that is genuinely yours, and not just the echo of what was taught before you had a voice about what to learn. To take from this conversation not a 10-step method, but a question that continues to work after this episode ends. Is this choice the one this episode named mine? Or is it what I learn I should choose? The difference between the two is not in the outcome. It is in the awareness with which the outcome was achieved. The choice that this episode examines is not simple to name, because it was made before you were aware that you were making a choice. It became a habit. It became an identity. It became the way things are. And the first step to choosing differently is to be able to see what was being chosen and why. Visible Choice was built to make visible what is always present but rarely examined. That most of what we call choices are better presented reflections. What was taught, what was inherited, what was modeled by specific environments. All of this operates in decisions that seem more personal and more free. There is a difference between deciding and choosing. Deciding is what we do when we process information and come to a conclusion. Choosing is what we do when we have real awareness of the alternatives, including the alternative of not doing what we have always done. This series works exactly that difference. What has been learned about how to make choices can be examined. What can be examined can be questioned. And what can be questioned can, with time and honest work, be replaced by something that is genuinely yours, and not just the echo of what was taught before you had a voice about what to learn.